Well, the suggestions that if there is no election for a local government chairman, for instance, that there will be no monies earmarked for that particular local government.
Yeah, that is to deepen our democratic process. You see, if you give a free check to people, definitely they are bound to use it the way they want to.
Not punish the people.
No, we are not punishing the people because what we have done now is to put the responsibility on the doorstep of those who are given the authority to make sure these things happen. The Constitution is saying democratically elected government at the local government level is guaranteed by this Constitution. Now, this same Constitution is saying if any state governor, as it is now, many states are there without, for the past two years, they've not had any democratically elected local government executives. What they have is, what do they call a caretaker? And that is not good for democracy because he who pays the piper dictates the tone. So what we are saying is that in itself is what is denying citizens at that level the right to participate in democratic governance, the right to be part of the process of choosing whoever they want to choose them and to determine their own future.
The thing about it is that oftentimes, as you know with any law, the spirit behind the law and sometimes how it eventually comes out are two different things. And sometimes the law can be a double-edged sword in such a way that what you intended might not be what precisely would turn out to be at the end of the day. Have we thought about the implications of what could happen if in the event that for whatever reason, the local government elections are not conducted or a local government is without a democratically elected chair and the people in that place have to suffer as a result of the fact that they cannot get the monies that should come to their local government as a result of that?
Well, your point is true, that yes, in every situation you look at, you look at the, what did they call it, the other implication. But the point to be made here is that by the provision of this Constitution, you can imagine if today it is decided that there will not be election in a state to produce a state governor, and Mr. President will now invoke, an emergency rule or whatever, which the Constitution has, and then ensure that somebody is there in the state. I'm sure citizens in that place will rise up. Now, the provision here is that by making this amendment, we are now empowering the people to know that the right to have their democratically elected chairman is guaranteed. And if any authority decides to do otherwise, they now have a right to rise up and challenge that person until he does what needs to be done. And I think that is the process that can take us away from the present system where people just come in, have caretaker committees, and then nothing happens at the governance and local government level. But the provisions we are having now, I have no doubt in my mind, are adequate and sufficient enough to ensure and guarantee that, yes, at the local government level, there will be democratically elected government. And, of course, for me, I'm proud to say that Niger State is not one of those states because we were the first to have democratically elected local government chairmen, and they're still there up to today.
The 7th Assembly spent a lot of money, trying to conduct a constitutional amendment. And at the end of the day, nothing came out of it. I mean, they finished their work, it sent it to the president for assent, even though there are questions as to whether or not, the president's assent is necessary for the amendments to take effect. Is it something that you're also considering could happen with the work that the National Assembly is currently doing?
Well, thank you very well. I think maybe perhaps let me take us back. If you remember when this 8th Senate and indeed this 8th Assembly came on board, we unfolded or presented to the Nigerian public our legislative agenda. And in that legislative agenda, we clearly stated our objectives, which are, among others, to ensure that we deepen democracy, to ensure that we promote good governance, to also look at the ways of our own operations. Because given the fact that the Constitution says we are to regulate our own affairs, we believe we must also introspect and try to see what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong. So within this context, we have promised as one of our priority constitutional amendment. Now, the difference here, to go back to our objective, which you can use to measure us at any rate, is that the Senate President said, look, based on what happened last time, we are convinced they were in the 7th Assembly and they saw what happened. So the lessons to be learned there first is that we took the entire package as one bill. And because there were disagreements with one or two provisions, everything died. So the baby, the bathwater, and the bath, everything went away. This time around, we choose to do it differently, which means we are now having all these issues brought as bills. Overall, the process we are starting today, we have 27 bills altogether, various provisions of the Constitution. And each of these bills will be treated on its own merit. That is one. Two, we also realize that if you wait for this process to happen late in the life of an assembly, politics and other pecuniary interests come in. So the clear lessons to be learned there is that start early. And that is why we started this early, and here we are. So I think for me, our leadership, and that is kudos to the fact that, of course, the 8th Senate this time around was very resolute and firm that we need our own leadership. Distinguished Senator Abubakar Bukola Saraki has provided that very robust leadership direction for us, and here we are. Promises made are promises kept as far as this 8th Senate is concerned.
Well, let's see how it eventually goes, because it's also interesting that this constitutional amendment is coming at a time when people are talking about restructuring. It's been sung loudly in the country. In fact, the Senate did say that the executive should raise a bill from what was done with the 2014 National Conference and send it to the Senate and see how it is they can incorporate this into the constitutional amendment currently going on. But then the Senate cannot claim that until, because we did listen to Senator Akpabio, who said that, well, the executive is here to send that bill to us. They cannot claim that they are not aware of the agitations around, and that if truly they are representing the aspirations of Nigerians and they are really worried about what their constituents are saying, they should have their ears to the ground and see what the major issues are and incorporate whatever it is that the people are talking about restructuring and see how it can come into the current constitutional amendment.
Well, it's very interesting because 27 bills dealing with different subject areas that affect this country, I think it's not something you can wish away. And our contention is, at any rate, nobody has provided a working definition or a dictionary definition or an encyclopedic definition of restructuring.
Why it is it's been difficult for your party to be able to include some of the things it promised in its manifesto into a constitutional amendment?
Well, you see, the issue is simple. Failure may not be the right word. And I think the party has made its position very clear. And I will not be able to say much other than the fact that, the party, through the spokesman, have indicated directions they want to give. They've not denied the fact that these are the promises they have made. And so that is important. And what they are saying is simply, they will need to determine what their own input into all of this is. And I think they've started that process. Now, be that as it may, the reality is, yes, there are issues having to do with so many of these issues bordering on restructuring. But like I said earlier before we went on break, nobody has given us any classical definition of what restructuring means. You talk to 12 people, you get 12 interpretations. But our own understanding as a National Assembly and as a Senate is that we have a responsibility, we owe a duty to citizens of this country to promote good governance, ensure that our democracy is strengthened, and in doing all of this, we are looking at the various conditions, various critical success factors that will help each of these areas. And I think that is where the Senate is, and that is why today we are starting a final lapse of the review of this Constitution, where we are having over 27 items or thereabout to look at. For example, the not too young to run issue, where because of the age that, we have considered that very seriously, and because it's a constitutional matter, it was something being clamored for, and it's right there as part of the things we're going to look at. So
2 quick questions then. Yeah. This is also coming at a time when the president is away, receiving medical treatment. There are questions as to whether or not this is something that the National Assembly is going to look at that provision of the Constitution in terms of, do you think there should be a limit on how long a president can be out of the country on medical treatment? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, there are questions as to, do you think the president should be talking to the country?
Well, you see, people are always having their own sentiment, and people are very interesting. I was in service, and I will tell you, when somebody has his own ward who is sick and is walking, and they are not giving him the support to get back to his health, you get to hear those people saying that these government people are very wicked. Somebody is sick. After all, he was sick while he was working. Why do you have to send him out again? What do you want him to do? So these sentiments are issues that can never go away.
You think it's a
sentiment?
But
yeah, it's sentiment, because if it is your own person who is sick, and at the period in which you want that person to get well, and people are telling you that action should be taken that to you might appear negative, I think you definitely want to express your displeasure with that kind of statement. But the point here is clear. There is no amount of grandstanding that people can do to change the reality. And the reality today is that, unlike what happened in the past, where people took laws into their hand, as far as we are concerned right now, the laws of the land are being obeyed fully to the letter, and there is nothing wrong with the current situation other than people just wanting to politicize it. The president clearly wrote to the National Assembly, in line with the provisions of the Constitution, Section 145, if I'm not mistaken, clearly he transmitted a letter. And on the basis of that, that same provision of the Constitution is saying, until he transmits another letter otherwise, there is what he has done stands. And so for us as a country, I think what is important is for us to begin to understand that we are all human, first and foremost. And right now, there is no vacuum anywhere. The acting president is working full throttle. The Federal Executive Council are meeting full throttle. The National Assembly is working full throttle. The judiciary is working full throttle. And what exactly is the problem?
And Sunrise Daily is working full throttle as well. So
that's it.
Senator, we have to thank you very much for coming on the program this morning. We've been speaking with Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, who is Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Publicity. Well, that's where we have to draw the curtains this morning, at least from our Abuja studios. Is back to you in Lagos, Chamberlain and Gimba.
Well, we'll have to draw it as well here, Mark, but thank you very much also for watching, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Osa.
And we're looking forward to see how those proceedings will go, and hope that it works in the best favor of our Nigerian people. I'm Gimba Umar, and bye for now too.